Hey everybody, it's Spear, and we're back with Archetype 101. Set 13 is really around the corner, and for once I might actually be ahead of the entire thing. Usually we start Archetype 101s and there's like a week or two before the set comes out, or like I get my last ones out when the set's out or after pre-release, but it looks like we're actually going to be ahead of time on this one, which is super sweet. And today we are covering Set 13, Bardock's Crew. Bardock's Crew being a fan favorite, honestly, constant request to see this archetype filled out. This one, however, being in a different color, like they've done in the past with things like Veggies. We're seeing them push these fan favorite characters into different colors and dabble into extremely different archetypes from what the deck was actually doing beforehand. Before we jump into it, if you guys want to pick up any of the cards that we talk about, pre-order Set 13 for yourself. I have to push you guys over to 3 Mana. They have the best prices in Canada for all your sealed and single DBS needs. So a link to that will be in the description below. Also, if you guys want to see like a fuller breakdown, I know my Archetype 101s typically cover just a quick basis. Here are all the cards. Here's what they're meant to do, how they're meant to synergize, but I don't go into what a deck is looking for, what an opening hand is looking for, what a mulligan is looking for. Well, then if you go to Stage 0, which is the team that I'm a part of, there are full breakdowns there done by Android of all the archetypes we're going to be talking about in Set 13, and specifically for Set 13 Bardock. That'll be over in the corner. And the last shill of the video, guys, if you guys want to watch me stream, I now stream starting on Mondays. So Monday through Thursday, and on weekends for tournaments. Link to that will be down in the description below. But now, after that was, that long preamble, let's actually jump into the archetype. So quick overview, it is a board swarm type strategy. You're using your leader as well as the abilities of other cards in the archetype to be able to fill your board, and as such establish some bond based value. A lot of the archetype is based around having bond 3 specifically, and you do get a lot of bonuses and go into your bigger finishers and such when you have bond. So hopefully there's a great way to go off and fill your board without too much trouble, but with the way this game plays right now, and especially with this leader, there's no issue on that front. We have Bardock permanent. You can't include extra cards with an energy cost of 2 or more in your deck, which is very interesting. For the most part, that doesn't hit too much. It impacts a couple of counter plays that you might want to play, like Denial of Hope and stuff like that. But for the most part, you still get access to really powerful negates. You can still use Violent Raise and stuff like that, and you still have access to all your battle card counter plays, which for the most part are most of what you would play anyways. So it limits it, but it's not too bad. Second permanent, all your red Bardock's Crew cards in your battle area with an energy cost of 1 have their energy cost increased by 2, which is really strong. This basically prevents you from being dormant potentialed or from being shocking deathbolt, essentially making it harder for your opponent to actually remove your stuff with the kind of floodgate negates that we can see in green pretty often. Because otherwise this archetype would probably be dead in the water if everything was just a 1-drop, just because it's so easy to remove 1-drops from the board. The Masked Identity Overwhelm, would like wipe the entire board. Now he's probably going to be able to wipe 1 or 2 targets depending on what's on board. So it does make it way more difficult for your opponent to be able to deal with this while still giving you the opportunity to play the Saiyan's hard cast for 1 energy. So it's this great balance between making sure the archetype can actually do something and not be too punished by the answers that are available in the card game now. Auto, when this card attacks, choose up to 1 red Saiyan card with an energy cost of 1 in your hand and play it. This is kind of tough. You're not drawing cards, but you do get a free play, and the free play could actually draw you a card or could net you some more board advantage. And I'm of the ideology that as long as a card has use, you're not negging. Yes, it's less hand advantage, but you haven't lost the value of that card until it stops being useful. And a battle card on board that draws you a card is still useful. So I'll take it, especially given that a lot of the cards that we're going to see later on in the archetype do provide advantage one way or another. Plus, there's the benefit that Bardock does have an alternate awaken condition. When your life is at 4 left, you have 3 or more mono red Saiyan cards in play. You may draw 1 card and add cards from your life to your hand until you have 4 life left, and then flip this card over. So it does suck that it's not an early awaken. You're not ever going to be able to awaken and stay at 6 life, 7 life, 8 life based off your alternate awakening. But that means that you're not going to have to worry too much about the no draw on the front side, because this archetype is just meant to spam out bodies. And it's not unheard of that on turn 2 you're going to be able to have the bodies necessary to be able to awaken, at which point you will actually get to draw. So we have SS Bardock, the Legend Awakened, Double Striker 15k. Permanent, all of your Bardock's Crew cards in your battle area have an energy cost of 1, now have an energy cost raised by 2, making them 3 costs like we saw on the front side. Additionally, with the auto, when this card attacks, draw 1 card. So there we go, that issue has been mitigated. So You know, with red leaders, we've been seeing lately that awakening hasn't really been an issue with them, especially with all the alt awakening conditions. This one is no different. So I think one turn of not being able to draw isn't the end of the world, given that on the backside it does. And you get the benefit of just having a double striking leader, which is great because leaders are now, they've always have been, but even more so today, just the most reliable way to close out games. Between things like Final Flashes and Heroine's Lineage now in the game, and there's so many things that deal with your battle cards trying to close out the game that a leader having innate double strike puts a ton of pressure. It deals with unison cards. It's actually super, super strong. On top of drawing a card, you actually get to once again choose a Saiyan with the cost of 1 and play it. Again, just being able to fill out your board and really getting you that bond that you're looking for. So before we actually jump into the crew itself and the pieces that are going to make this bond strategy really come together, what are we building up to? You know, what makes it worthwhile getting all this incidental value? The first one being SS Bardock Super Saiyan Enlightenment. 5-drop 20k. Unique barrier being super sweet, makes it like super viable. Even if it doesn't have any attacking keywords, no dual attack, no triple strike, anything like that, having barrier means that it's going to be a body that sticks, which is super, super valuable. EX evolves for 1 red on a Bardock with energy cost with an original energy cost of 1, which original is pretty key here because if it said 1, they're no longer 1 on board, then you have this issue. But here, original cost of 1, sweet, which means we can go into our 1-drops and right away go into this if we wanted to. When this card is played, look at top 7 cards from top of your deck, place up to 1 Bardock's crew among them in your drop area, and then shuffle your deck. And then when this card attacks, play up to 1 Bardock's crew card and energy cost of 1 from your drop area, and then up to 2 of your red Saiyan cards other than this card get 5k power for the turn. So you send it to drop. Gives you more options. There are some cards that will proc off skills based on what's in your drop, which is kind of cool. And then you actually just flat out get to play one and boost the rest of your board, meaning that you're benefiting the flood strategy. The flood strategies oftentimes can kind of hurt if you're only stuck with 10k battle cards and then you're negating a card every time to combo to start dealing damage to your opponent's awakened leader. This mitigating that by saying with this extra step, your little weenie attackers are now actually going to be able to be bigger attackers and actually start threatening for lethal or threatening for damage, which is super sweet. Additionally, we have SS Son Goku, the legend personified. 1 cost 4k unique. Auto, when this card is played, you get to draw 1 card. Activate main bond 3 once per turn. If your opponent has 3 or more energy, this card gets a 21k power until the end of your next main phase. So we're starting to see a lot of these 1-drop cantrips that can be finishers. We have Bazil, we have Kakunsa, and now we're seeing this one here with Son Goku. Of course, a little bit harder to proc, the proc here being bond 3, as well as your opponent being on 3 energy, meaning that there's a bit more of a delay versus what you could do with the other ones. But again, just a big beefy attacker. He doesn't get any keywords, which is kind of a pain. Doesn't get double strike, doesn't get anything, but he's a big 25k for 1 cost, which is very efficient if your opponent's down at 1 life, or you can just jam a double strike on it, anything like that. It's a very low opportunity cost to be able to apply pressure later on in the game. And then we have the crew. Lots of chain attacks here, so we'll start with chain attack Tora, 1 cost 4k, and he has blocker with bond 3, meaning you need to have 3 total battle cards on board with Bardock's crew in their name to be able to go and activate blocker. Kind of finicky. I feel like the blocker part did need bond out of all the cards. I think a 1-cost blocker is pretty fair, but hey. And then we have the auto. If your lead card is a Bardock's crew card, when this card is played from your hand, add up to 1 red Bardock's crew card with an energy cost of 5 or less that isn't Tora from your drop area to your hand, and then you can't play copies of this card for the turn. So this is a pretty good tutor. It allows you to fetch what you need, especially with some of the cards that are just dumping things into your drop. And here we can see that obviously you're not chaining into Toras over and over and over again, but we're still going off and pushing even more card advantage that way. Then we have chain attack Fascia, permanent bond 3 red Saiyan cards and or Bardock crew cards, which is kind of funny because it means it can include multicolor or blue or yellow Bardock's crew, which is like kind of some synergy there. But then again, you know, who knows what Bardock's crew shows in the future. This card gets 11k power, turning it into a 15k battle card, which is really good for 1, especially when we're giving it the fact that, you know, we can give it a 5k boost. Now it's a 20k attacker. It's just a very good statted card. With the auto, when this card is played, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, up to 1 Bardock's crew card with energy cost of 5 or less, or up to 1 red unit card with specified cost of 2 among them to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So this is a searcher, but it's a searcher that's also 15k. Mind you, it's bond 3, which they could eventually get rid of it, given you lose some bodies on board, which is also a cantrip. So all in all, very well statted card. You know, I don't understand why you wouldn't play them, especially since you can play them for free with your leader. Then we have chain attack Shugesh, unique permanent bond 3 red Saiyan cards and or red Bardock's crew cards. This card gets 10k power and double strike. So now we have some aggression here. 1 cost, 15k double striker, with just bond 3. The nice thing here is that being a lot of these 1-drop 15Ks that are double strikers tend to lose it on your opponent's turn. Here, bond is harder to keep, but the benefit of having something that's harder to keep on board is the fact that if you keep on having bond 3, this will be 15K on your opponent's turn, making it tougher for them to actually have to deal with the cheeky little 1-drop double strikers that are on board, which is super sweet and is actually can make quite a big of a difference when we're talking about the little advantage games that we play in DBS. Then we have Chain Attack of Borgos, 1 cost 4K permanent bond 3 red stain cards and or Bardock true cards. This card gets 11K power. Again, 15K 1-drop, very good stat. And when this card's played, just draw 1 card. Straight up just a cantrip. Nothing too special here, not going to find you anything too crazy in your deck, but hey, it's a source of card draw and it allows you to start filling up your board. Finally, we have Chain Attack Bardock. This is the TP promo for the Archetype. 1 cost 4K permanent bond 3 red stain cards and or Bardock true cards. This card gets 11K power and critical. So we have the double striker, we got the blocker, and we got the critical. So we have our entire array here of battle stats. And then auto when this card attacks, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and it gets minus 4K power for the turn for each red stain card and or Bardock true card in your battle. So not only does he serve as a strong 15K critical attacker, both on your turn and your opponent's turn, as long as you have bond, but additionally it serves as removal, and this could kill almost anything. Mind you, it doesn't ignore barrier, but aside from barrier cards, you have 5 cards, this is dealing 20K, you know, and it just scales from there, which is super good, especially on a very aggressively costed 1 cost that you can basically play for free. And to wrap it all around, we have Bardock, Pride of the Low Class Warrior, not a chain attack, but a 1 cost Bardock crew. Auto, add 1 card from your left to your hand. When this card attacks, he gets 11K power for the battle. So being a Self-Awakener. And then auto, if your leader card is a red stain card and you have 2 or more energy, when this card deals damage by attacking, switch this card to active mode. Look at top 7 cards from the top of your deck. Play 1 Bardock true card with energy cost of 1 among them. Shuffle your deck, the card you played with the skill, and this card can attack for the turn. So here's really good card just because it means you're getting bond basically by turn 2 guaranteed with this card. It's going to come in, it'll probably deal damage, odds are. And then you have 2 Bardock screw cards on board ready to set up for your third going into turn 2. So no reason not to probably play this as a 4 of, just because it really forces your awaken. You're going to start being able to draw with your awaken side sooner, and it basically guarantees you a turn 2 bond, which is absolutely amazing. Moving on to the support cards, we have Invasion of Bardock Shrew, 1 cost extra card, activate main. If your leader card is a Bardock Shrew card, choose 1. Look at top 7 cards from top of your deck, play up to 1 Bardock Shrew card with an original energy cost of 1 among them, then shuffle your deck. Or you get to choose 2 red Bardock Shrew cards with a different name and energy cost in your drop area, play them with their skills negated for the turn. Honestly, this is just super sweet. The second ability basically giving you bond right away, because odds are you're going to have a way to have 1 battle card on board. And if not, you get the activate main to be able to get, let's say, the 1-drop Bardock out of your deck if you needed it. Just a really good way to start getting the board in. So if your leader free plays the Bardock that we had seen previously, then you have 2 battle cards. You can use this. You have your 3rd battle card. There's so many ways for you to get your bond online that it's really not an issue. Then we have Sun Gohan Saiyan combo. Not specific to this archetype, but it's a red Saiyan. He's not a 1-drop, mind you. But I kind of decided to include him just because there's like some Saiyan synergy there. So I wouldn't say he's very archetypal, but I figured if I was going to mention him anywhere, it'd be here. 2 cost deflect permanent bond 3 red Saiyan cards. This card gets 10K power and blocker. And then auto, when this card is played from your hand, look at top 7 cards from top of your deck, play up to 1 red Saiyan card with an energy cost of 1 among them, then shuffle your deck. So he's got some synergy, but he's a 2 cost, which is weird. And I don't know if it's something you want to include, but hey, at the end of the day, he's a 20K, which is pretty beefy. And then he's able to play more cards, getting you more bond, doing all that jazz. So not the worst. And then finally, we move on to Jine at her husband's sides. 2 cost, 10K super combo. The super combos in this set being very interesting because they're 11K, which is well, they can be 11K, which is really cool. If your leader card is a red or a heroine card and your life is at 4 or less, when this card is used in a combo from your hand, you get to draw a card and then choose 1 card in your combo area other than this card and gets 6K combo for the battle. So it's better, but also worse, right? Like by itself, it's worse because it is just a 5K super combo. Which means that against some attacks it's going to be more annoying to use because where you would typically use just 1 super combo, now you'd have to use 2 cards once more. But on the side where you're actually trying to push or defend yourself or whatever from a huge attack and you need to start comboing multiple cards, this effectively becomes better because it serves as 3 cards worth of combo depending on which side of the attack you're on, which is super powerful, super cool. And then we have the Unison Mass Saiyan Avenger from Another Dimension permanent. During your turn, this card gets 1k power for each red Saiyan card in your battle area. That's super cool. You know, probably gonna most likely be like about a 19k odds are. I think for the most part, you can kind of expect to have about 4 battle cards on board, given the way that the archetype is able to flood battle cards on the board. So 19k is kind of where I place it at as far as how strong you can expect this thing to be. But this thing scales indefinitely with however many you have on board. +1, activate main, place up to 1 of your red Saiyan cards with energy cost in your drop area from your deck. And of course, we do know that there's a number of cards that get cards from our drop, which is super sweet. Shuffle your deck and then draw 1 card. So this is really good just on the back of being able to draw a card every single turn. We've seen on other Unisons, and just the 2-cost Unison that can just draw a card is just good advantage. And then -2, activate main, draw 1 card, choose all your red Saiyan cards with an energy cost of 3 or less, and they get 5k power for the turn. Again, really adding on to very like the 5-drop Bardock, we're gonna really pump up our little weenies and make them viable attackers. Like we see with this ultimate here, which you can proc off the turn he comes down. It's just a -2. And then finally, we have the defensive cards. King Vegeta, Hidden Ambitions, a 1-cost counter. Whoa! If your leader card and energy are all mono red and your opponent has 3 or more energy, negate the counter skill of an extra card with an original energy cost of 1 that was activated without paying its energy cost, then play this card. So very specific. This is very meta dependent, very what decks are around specific. But here we're targeting things like dormant potentials and things that really punish flood. So you can really see that this archetype was based around the idea that let's make sure that we can actually punish decks that are going to try and floodgate us. So dormant potential isn't going to hit our battle cards because there are 3 costs on board, and we're going to counter if they try to do it anyways, because it's one of the few counters that people do without paying their energy cost. Also, it's sparking, which is pretty interesting. Also has an activate main for 1 red. If your lead card's a red Saiyan card and you place this card in its owner's drop area, play up to 1 mono red Vegeta's lineage cards with an energy cost of 3 or 10k power or less from your deck, then shuffle your deck. Odds are you're never going to use this. This more so works with the King Vegeta archetype, but it's there if you want to tech in some lineage stuff in your Bardock's crew deck. I'm not saying it's impossible, it is very possible, but the second part of the ability, not really relevant to this archetype, but the counter is so relevant to red in general, this set, that I can't not mention it. Additionally, we have King Vegeta's Imposing Presence. Counterattack, a related card is mono red Saiyan card. You may choose the attacking card, ignoring barrier, and it gets -10k power for the turn. Your opponent can't attack with cards for a turn unless they give the attacking card -5k power for each time. And so I think that means every single time they attack, they need to give it -5k. You can't activate copies of this card from your hand for the turn. So you can only do it once, which means it doesn't stack on stack on stack. But hey, some things to consider. Also, as permanent, if your life is at 3 or less, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying the energy cost by choosing 1 card in your hand and discarding it. We love being able to use our negates without actually paying for them. So we'll take it wherever we can. And that's the set 13 Bardock's crew, a very flood heavy bond archetype that, while the leader on the front side seems like it could lose out an advantage because of the support of the archetype, really odds are turn 1, almost guaranteed turn 2, you're going to be able to awaken, and at that point your issues are mitigated and you have a strong double striking leader on the back of a bunch of 1ks that are actually 3ks on board that have double strike, critical, and can get buffed up by each other as well as your other supporting cast, which makes it really sweet. With that said, guys, that was the archetype for today. How would you guys build Bardock True? I'm not entirely sure. I think you just kind of include all the archetype and then you add in some quality of life cards, but for the most part, I feel like the archetype really fills itself out. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. We are doing all the archetype 101s for set 13. We're hashing them out for the next 2 weeks in preparation for the release of this set. So subscribe button's in the corner if you want to catch all those. With that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.